Welcome everybody to Help the Helpers this morning, this afternoon, this evening. It is such a delight to have Doris Brothers back with us. And we already begun asking the big questions about knowing, unknowing, what embodiment is. We were so eager to get into all of this that we didn't even wait for you, but we're going to catch you up. And Doris, welcome everybody to Help the Helpers this morning, this afternoon, this evening. It is such a delight to have Doris Brothers back with us. And we've already begun asking the big questions about knowing, unknowing, what embodiment is. We were so eager to get into all of this that we didn't even wait for you, but we're going to catch you up. And Doris is going to speak to us about trust and the need not to know at times, the thorny questions, right, Doris? She's giving us thorny questions this morning before the roses are even blooming. And I'm just delighted because this is an area we so need to explore, the area of trust and knowing, especially after our adventure, which isn't quite over yet, about saying the unsayables. I think this is going to fit right in with this project that we've been doing together. So welcome, and I'm going to turn it over to Dorothy to introduce Doris.
I'm very happy that Doris could be with us today again, and it goes way back for me when I met Doris.
Your volume is too low.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay. And so anyway, I'm very happy to introduce Doris Brothers. We met quite a long time ago in the early 80s, when Doris was working as a school psychologist at Cathedral School of St. John the Divine, and I was a learning disability specialist. And I hadn't entered the world of therapy yet. And Doris introduced me to so many ideas, especially in self psychology. And I just started going to conferences before I was even a therapist. So I'm very, very grateful to who she's been in my life over the years. And I'm very excited about the different books that and the different ideas that Doris has developed. And now with her husband, Jon Sletvold, they've just entered so many different areas for us to think about, especially about embodiment, the world of not knowing and knowing, the need not to know. Very, very challenging, as Lynn Preston has said to us. So you'll see in the flyer the lists of books and resources for Doris. So I don't want to take any more time, and I'm going to invite Doris to begin.
Thank you so much, Dorothy. Dorothy, the best part of being at the Cathedral School was you. It was such a wonderful, wonderful connection that we had, and you have stayed in my heart since then. So thank you. And I'm going to talk both when Dorothy asked me to talk about trust again. I mean, it's it's like throwing me into the briar patch. I said, oh. But the trouble is that recently, every time I think I'm getting a handle on the trust business, something gets in the way. And my husband, Jon, and I have been just sent for publication, it's in progress now, a book that we're called Psychoanalytic Explorations of Embodied Relational Knowing. And as we were, when Dorothy asked me, I was thinking, oh gosh, the things that I kind of thought I knew about trust have been turned upside down a little bit in this work. So I'm going to need your help, folks, to with some of the questions that I have now. And you'll see, we all know that when we're little, and people can say to us, "Oh, you're such a nice little person, and I'm so happy to see you." And we know that they're not telling us the truth. We can feel that they're not being honest. We don't trust them. But something happens in the course of development. We develop different needs that have to do with knowing about what's going on between us and other people. And this concept that we developed, Jon and I, called embodied relational knowing, has to do with the idea that we very much, even though there are limitations, very severe limitations in what we can know about ourselves and others. We're not like God. We can't know it all. We long for this complete knowing, to know, being not only to know, but to be known. And just as strong as our need to know is our need not to know. And we're very familiar with the need not to know when it comes to dissociation, because we can absolutely forget what happened if we need not to know in the context of trauma and dissociation. But Jon and I have found out that this need not to know is very prevalent. We need not to know all kinds of stuff. For example, if we are going to a doctor, we need not to know that they may have, botched up their last operation. We don't want to know that. We don't try to find that out. We need to know that they're going to help us. But that's, just very commonplace. But this need not to know is very pervasive. And there are times when the need to know and be known intertwines with the need not to know and not to be known. And I was telling Lynn that we're very indebted to Roger Frie in his book, Not in My Family, because he talks about how the Germans both knew and didn't know about the Holocaust, many of them. And how is that possible? So, but we have seen, or at least we think we have, that what we can know on a bodily level is sometimes not what we can know on a cognitive level. And there is sometimes this discrepancy that occurs. So that complexifies things to begin with. But what if we want, we have the idea that trust is strongest when we tell what we honestly believe to one another, that we receive honest responses to us and we give honest responses. And, that seems to make sense. Trouble is that when we think about what we need not to know, we may need not to know that either we are giving an honest opinion to someone or that they are being honest with us. We may need not to know that. And there are times when we just have these needs intertwine. And that's very often when we're triggered by some stuff going on that's, very powerfully meaningful to us. So this need not to know and the need to, what happens at such times? We often fall silent. It's almost as if we can't function in that state. And the silence kind of covers this I don't know, failure of trust. I don't know. I need you, especially Linda, to think about what that silence covers. But there are times when we have, we have the idea, especially from self-psychology, that there are people who have varying degrees of needing to know that they are seen, accepted for all their goodness, all the things that are very, very special about them. But sometimes that is it interferes with trusting when the idea that we can try to be honest about what is good, but if we are being silent about what is not good about people, it can get us into trouble. So I wanted to talk to you for a few minutes about a patient I worked with who came to see me after she had made a lot of gains with a colleague of mine, but she said that he was a man and maybe he was being too soft on her. And I said, what do you mean by being soft? What does soft mean? And she said she told him about the things that would get her into trouble, he was always finding good reasons for the things that she did. And she said, would please try not to do that with me because it's very unhelpful. I didn't really trust him because he didn't tell me. And when I found out was that the thing that would get her into trouble all the time was her I-centeredness, her thinking about herself first. And so she would, like call me a few minutes before a session and say, oh, something came up, but we have to change. And I would say, sorry, we had a session. And she would get very angry and she would say that she was going to quit, but I just held firm. And she would come back and say, okay, I've cooled down and, let me see you. But what I did, Jon and I have developed this way of asking people to work in an embodied way. And that means to see themselves within the person that they're having some conflict with and find out what's going on in their bodies first, and then see what comes up. And I'm gonna read you a little bit because it will go faster that way if I read. So I suggested that she imagine herself calling to change an appointment just before a session and to let me know what her bodily experience was. And Judy was surprised to discover that she felt tingling in her arms and legs. This tingling in her arms and legs was telling her that she felt at risk. And when I asked her about thoughts and memories that might accompany these feelings, she mentioned seeing herself as a young child marking the kitchen wall with a crayon. And we talked and she was talking about that she would do outrageous things to get her parents' attention. She had been an unwanted addition to the family. And so when I did what I was supposed to do, when I was a good girl, I was ignored. So I did outrageous things. Even if I got yelled at or spanked, I was noticed. So then I asked her, we worked in a similar way with her harshness with her staff at work. And these memories were revived. So we found new ways to understand Judy's problematic ways of relating, but I tried not to let her off the hook about the negative effects of what were going on. And then the next thing that we do in this embodied approach is to ask the person to become the person. Lynn, when we were in Pasadena, you remember this. And so I asked her to become somebody she had been harsh with. And we were both so surprised because as she imitated a young employee who she had berated for sloppy work habits, she was flooded with memories of feeling devastated by her mother's fault finding. And then I asked her to picture the interaction between herself and the employee. And Judy was stunned by the enjoyment she derived from what she called bullying the younger woman. She realized that she could not focus on the pain she was inflicting. What she could not know about the other person's pain. She could know it in her head, but she couldn't know it in her feelings. And what mattered was the pleasure she felt in being the bully. And, Judy became of me as we worked these ways. It's when she is, she has been more successful in her personal approaches, but she has been less successful in this, in her relationships with men she dates and with women friends than she was at work. She could manage it at work better. But this was very interesting to me to realize that what she hadn't wanted to know was about how much joy how much pleasure she got in turning the tables and being the one who inflicted pain. And I have to say that there was something very stunning to me about knowing how her trust was the trust that flowed between us. I trusted her more and she trusted me more when we were able to focus on this aspect of her experience, what she didn't need to know, didn't want to know, maybe couldn't know at the time. But there are many, many questions. And I think that this silence that covers the intersection of knowing on one level and not knowing on another, or just feeling that this knowing and not knowing kind of intersects, and the silence that falls over us can get in the way of our cultivating exchanges that promote trust. And this is particularly challenging when very negative feelings come up. And Yun and I have been thinking that we sometimes hate our patients, and sometimes they hate us. And in the context of this kind of experience, it is because we're sort of trained to be, we're more likely to feel that we love a patient than that we hate a patient, or that we are loved than we are hated. Although I think it's a little easier for us, see what you think, to be hated by a patient than to feel that we hate them. But I have had experiences in which when hate has come up for me about something that is going on about a patient, I need not to know it. And I fall silent about just what is going on. This has gotten me into terrible trouble with patients because they have needed, and maybe they are registering on a bodily level, maybe what they don't even need to know on a cognitive level, but somehow it's getting across. And the silence that befalls the two of us can really do horrible damage to a therapeutic relationship. The trust is ruined in those instances. Lynn and Dorothy, have I spoken enough?
Doris, would you mind going back to your original work on trust, just to fill people in
Okay.
on you're juxtaposing the need not to know and the whole issue of honesty, which we have to look at what we mean by honesty.
Yeah.
But I think some people may not even know what you mean by trust. I'm always quoting you in saying trust is the glue that holds the self together. But then what is that glue? What is that trust and its relationship to knowing and not knowing? So maybe you'll respond to me as you did to Dorothy that we need a week for that. But if you could say just a few words about trust, I think it will give us some background to help knit these two universes together of the knowing and not knowing and the trust as the glue.
Thanks for bringing me back. um, in that book, Total Psychology of Trust, I was talking about the complexity of trust, that it's not just a unidimensional thing, that it is, it's complicated in that we need to trust the other person. We need to be trusted by another person. We need to be experienced as trustworthy to ourselves and to the other person. And there are, when trust in one dimension is lessened, very often because of some kind of betrayal. I had suggested that it's the betrayal of trust in any of these dimensions, the complexities, that really lies at the heart of trauma. Is that what you were getting at, Lynn? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. And that it is just as traumatizing to experience the fact that someone you trusted has betrayed you, as it is, in this case with Judy. Judy was really amazed to realize that she, not only couldn't she be trusted, but that the way that she couldn't be trusted was actually a source of pride and delight for her. And that there was something that let her know, let her be known. She felt more known by that understanding that it was her untrustworthiness as a superior at work that was so meaningful and important to her. So it is, she was, her whole way of being was based on a kind of untrustworthiness that it was kind of like a reaction to the fact that it was only by being the untrustworthy child, the little girl who did, mischief rather than, behaving herself, that could get her need to be known, that she was there, that she existed in her family. Yeah. Do you want to say something, Lynn?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. I was thinking that trust is a kind of inner knowing, a knowing of the other person, and that inner knowing, having a well-developed inner Doris, is the essence of the glue. But then the betrayal of the knowing, oh, I was knowing this, but that wasn't right, is this terribly jarring experience, not only relationally with the other, but also relationally with ourselves. I can't trust myself because what I felt I knew didn't work out to be what actually was going on.
Yes. Now you're getting there, I think, Lynn, that we are confronted with the enormous uncertainty that we have to tolerate in our work about how we perceive even someone we think we know very well and think we know ourselves in certain ways, that there are these complexities that come from our needs not to know, and that interfere with this sense. I mean, I think that it's not complete. It's not as if I don't feel that I know Lynn, but do I fully know Lynn? No, no. And does Lynn fully know me? In all my Dorisness, all my nasty Dorisness? Probably not. But but we know enough to love, but the love, I think, which I think is, how could we love without trusting, right? I think do you think, Lynn, that love and trust go together?
Yes. To think. Yes.
Course, we know is a terribly complicated thing, but that feeling was so beautiful. So there's a way, Lynn, if what I know and love about you turns out not to be the whole you, I don't care. Yeah, but it is an acceptance, I think,
Yeah.
a humble acceptance
Yes.
that much as you have shown yourself in a very generous way, Lynn, to me, very generous, and you have shown me yourself in your paintings and in your way of talking and thinking and all of that. There's still lots of Lynn I don't know,
Yes.
and yeah.
And perhaps we are unknowable to ourselves and to the other. And I think that would fit very much with Jane's philosophy of the vastness of the human person and the unknowableness, since we are embodied in such a way that we have the past and the future and everything in us, and we can't know all of that, nor trust all of that, nor um, in any way represent all of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So maybe it's good to open this up, because I think we have a wonderful community here of people who love to think about these kinds of things and will help us.
I am so excited about hearing from the people who have been listening.
So I know many of you are very eager to play with us about these ideas, and I could see Liz just thinking about what she's going to say, and I see Susan and I see Sashi there like this, and Jim. I know Jim has things to say, and Pauline. So anything that anybody has to say.
Well, I'm afraid of have like a mush, and I'm always afraid, is this mush going to be able to be translated to any sort of coherent anything now? So that's how I'm beginning. But I was thinking about the content of it all. So what your patient couldn't come out with for a while was the sadistic pleasure in being mean and getting revenge. Displacement revenge on whoever's available to be lesser. Um, so sometimes I feel, and I'm very open to having this argued with and shut down. Sometimes I feel that the uh, relational turn and self psychology, sometimes I think of it as going from Freudian Old Testament to some kind of a more Christian New Testament way of looking at therapy and people. And I don't say that in a positive way. That on the surface, oh, now it's about growth. Now it's, self psychology is about arrested development. And if only you give people the nurturing, it has that bias. Whereas in the good old Freudian, God with the lightning bolt, and, there's more of an understanding. You could call it drive theory, but you don't have to talk about it as drives, but maybe more accepting of the not so great stuff that's in us, and that what comes with the turn toward growth and we love is an implicit, but you better not say that, but you better not feel that. Toxic positivity is a term that's used sometimes, right, in the popular culture. Okay.
Liz, I agree with you, and I think that there really is a bias that makes things like our hating our patients and being hated so hard to get at, because we're supposed to be loving and kind, and that has been
Yeah.
reinforced in recent, especially in self psychology and among certain people, not all. But I think that there are biases in our field, and maybe for the reasons that we've chosen to be healers. The idea, there's
Yes.
something about, being the good healer that makes us not want to know about what about being bad healers. If you want to
And
use
there's a rush. There's a rushing toward, oh, there's this bad stuff. Let's rush to, with techniques and think about it differently. And it is so biased. And in it is a message that, you want to trust, but you can't really trust when there's this huge message that's actually implicit and not stated clearly.
Mhm.
That we really want to know you, but not that. And
Yeah.
that's why we've been, talking about the unsayable in these meetings.
Yeah, I
You know,
think this is so important, Liz, and I thank you for raising it. I think the need not to know about our hatefulness, our sadism, if you will, or whatever, has blinded us in many ways, and has created the context for silence at times that is really, really does away with trusting.
and also
I
just
think
to add, if we're going to put in the hate or the sadism, that's not the only, there's also, gee, I'm so glad you're my therapist, but couldn't you leave your wife and just, how many people actually say that, if they do and they're seductive, they're called hysterics. There's a whole diagnostic category for that also.
Liz, you're reminding me that we have this section on secrets and the need not to know, and we all have secrets. I
Mhm.
mean, the idea that we would just say everything that comes to mind is bullshit. We have secrets all the time, and our analysts have secrets from us.
Mhm.
And
I,
yeah, yeah.
I think Dorothy has been waiting to say something.
Hey, Dorothy, go ahead. Thanks, Liz. That was great. You're muted, Dorothy.
There we go. Yes, I really do want to speak in spite of me always having the mute button. There's something there. I'm not sure, but um, having been one of the silent for many, many years. Anyway, I'm just would love to know more about the challenge when the aspect of trust where you don't trust yourself. Because if you don't have that starting point, then everything gets messed up. All your thought processes, because you can't trust anything that comes out of your mouth. So if you have this sadistic urge, or if you have the loving urge, both, it's so blocked because you don't trust your core self, so to speak, of where you're coming from. If that's been damaged, that's what I would love to hear you talk.
Yeah, I think that it's the alternative, the opposite, that is more likely, that that we exaggerate our trustworthiness in a certain way, that we may not trust that we can speak coherently or have, write beautifully, but that there's something that we can kind of trust that we will that we have the capacity for love, is pretty much more common. And I think that I don't doubt that there are times, and maybe for some people it's much more common, not to trust the most basic aspects of oneself. But I think that is what probably lies at the heart of what is called psychosis. I may be wrong about that, Dorothy. What do you think?
Um, what lies at the heart of
The idea that we cannot even trust that we are capable of loving the other person, or that we are able to make contact in some way with another human, the most basic way of trusting. What do you think? Do you think that it's possible to, function in the world without that?
No, no. That's a wonderful way of asking it. It's so basic. Are you able to function in the world without it?
Yeah, Lynn reminds me that I wrote that, trust is the glue that holds itself together. So I'm thinking that if that fails, if that glue is loosened, and there is no, it doesn't matter. You can't trust the other, as you point out, unless there's some way of trusting oneself, and in these most basic ways. But is that what we are finding in people who really cannot live in the world, who can't be, known to themselves or others to any degree? Not, forget completely. I mean, none of us can do the complete, but approaching that. Is that what we mean? I'm curious if people think that maybe that extreme failure of trusting oneself and trusting the other, because as you point out, they go together to some extent. Is that what we mean when we talk about people being psychotic? I'm curious. I don't know.
I think Pauline has her hand up, and someone
Banu.
else's name.
I think Banu was first.
Hi,
Banu.
it's me, Lynn, but it's Banu.
Oh, Banu. Good
Pauline,
to see you.
you can go first if it's like about this, because I was gonna add something right here. Like I was gonna ask a question about right this point.
Sure. Good morning, Doris, and
Morning.
everyone. Yeah, I suppose my it's continuing more of the conversation. So it's kind of like just your curiosity asked, around psychosis, and it for me, it would be trusting the stories of that we've got, and a lot of them would be around God and grace. And so it's like I have, it was trusting the stories I got about love, and they're just so messed up,
Oh.
And from that, then making some sort of other sense of the world, and coming into relationship with a deep faith in survival, and knowing actually that's the only thing that's actually working in the end, But it's so skewed with what people are saying with a straight face and, of course I love you, of course I love you, or whatever, So whether it's as a younger woman and just needing, anyway, you get the point, that's.
I do get the point. I do get
Yes,
the point.
but
Yes.
that's it. God's
Thank
not
you.
to be trusted.
Oh, thank you, Pauline.
Yes, yes. I like the way you put it in that pithy way. God is not to be trusted.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Freud, and Pauline, neither Freud
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah.
or Cohen.
Right.
Thank you. Yeah.
Or Jean Gentleman.
Is it okay if I go now?
Please.
I was curious about what trust means or is. Like, I'm trying to think based on my experience. To me, it's three different things: trusting another person, trusting myself, and trusting the world or God, like everything at large. And at first glance, I'm sure I could think about it. It is, first of all, given. It's a sense. It's a felt sense, we could say, of being like, you don't question it once you have it, right? Like, it only becomes a thing when we don't have it. And
That's
not
right.
this-
That's right. That's so important that it isn't something we become aware of until it's betrayed.
right. Yeah. And trust yourself about psychosis. I was thinking, one time I took a medication that messed with my sleep, and I remember the feeling of, I can't trust my brain right now. And I had a psychotic client recently, and I felt so much empathy for her. And she was very floridly psychotic and just couldn't get it to, it was so hard. But I'm like, oh my God, this is a terrible feeling, because I'm having these thoughts. I wasn't necessarily delusional. It's just not necessarily, I wasn't delusional. I just couldn't put my thoughts together and in the way that I knew would function in the world. And it's horrible. So that's one thing I thought about, the definition of that, of trusting. And then for us to even know, like, I have another client I'm thinking of who's saying, oh, I'm having all these flashbacks. I don't want to know. And you did this to me. And because I can't know, now I don't trust myself. Now I don't trust everything. It seems so fragile. And I just wanted to share this. I don't know if it sparks anything. I don't necessarily have a question, but just some pondering.
Yes, but not to be able to trust that something we value so much as our ability to think is, really puts us in touch with the fragility of our existence, how excruciatingly vulnerable we are in the world. And that's something that I think we don't want to know, is our utter fragility, our, I remember what's coming back is that my daughter, who's okay now, but she fell on her head down a flight of stairs when she was a teenager.
Oh.
And when I went to the emergency room where she went and saw her, she was totally blank. And it wasn't me who had lost the capacity, she had. And the feeling of that I cannot know this, make contact with this person who doesn't know me, was maybe the worst moment of my life. So I know what you're talking about. Thank you, Brenda.
Thanks. I hope she's okay.
Yeah. Other issues, but she's fine.
So maybe we could take a moment and just this conversation has been so rich. Just see each one of us, what is there for us about what trust means to us, and knowing and not knowing, what we can't know or trust, what it means to trust life, what it means to know. Just come back to ourselves for a second and then continue our conversation. We have about 10 minutes and then we'll have our breakout rooms.
I think Nurit trusts that when she raises her hand, people can see and call on her.
And she was right too, because you saw her and called on her.
Thank you.
I would like to hear what you have to say, Nui.
Yeah, so I will start by saying I am not a psychotherapist.
Okay.
So my view or my observation is a bit different. I chose to work with the body because I never trusted words. Because earlier in my life, I was at with a therapist, which I lied to constantly, and he bought my lies. So after that experience, I started to listen to the body in a different way, and I trust the body, and I trust what it says. The other things that I wanted to say, when I heard you talk, you called your clients patients. And I got a sense of a power issue.
Yeah.
Like, I know, as a therapist, I know, and my client does not know. And they come to me, so I will tell them what is knowing. Whereas, so that was really disturbing to me because I felt that there is a power struggle that is in the fact that people come to therapy.
I think you are completely right. We in this book that we've written, we have a chapter on power and power knowing. Foucault is a guy who has Marcel Foucault has written a book in which he links power and knowing because they are so inseparable.
Yes.
And you have put your finger on, the very word patient has gives the idea, I know because I'm the therapist and I have that power of knowing. And you poor thing, you're a patient, you don't know.
Yeah. So you are bigger than life in a certain way.
Yes.
I really don't like that word. I'm sorry.
I get it. I don't like client because it's so mercenary.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I feel like it does violence to my idea that, they pay me and I need the money and all of this stuff. And I do have, kind of power because I set the rules about, when you can see me and when you can't and all of this, but they have a lot of power too. And but client, I feel, takes away from when I have a client, when I go into a shop, it's not about how much I care about them or they care about or hate them or, I'm disappointed in them. It's, what I pay for. And that's my objection to, I prefer patient only because it leaves more room for the feeling connection than, the mercenary part of things, even though that's there, Nuri. I completely agree with you. Absolutely. Thanks for mentioning that.
You're welcome.
I think we have Eric.
Thank you. So, Doris, when you were talking about conversing
Yeah.
with your client, it felt like you were talking to a self state that was autonomous and not partitioned or boundaried from the other self states.
Uh-huh.
And the way you were proceeding was to honor who and what was there right now. And I felt the love in that, the acceptance in that, the drawing out, the making safe, the repair, attachment repair there. And it seems like what we know and what we don't want to know, it's like the verge between the conditional and the unconditional. And when you accept the self state, you're more in the unconditional.
Ah, interesting.
And how do we as practitioners move into that place? So is there an essence of how we come to know ourselves deeply and tolerate what we don't want to know, which is going to bloom our ability to be unconditional, just make it bloom? What's the essence to you? Like if you could give us that.
I use the word tolerance. And I think that thank you very much, Eric, because, actually I'm still saying Judy, and that's not her name, but, and she can be really nasty to me, really nasty. And it makes me love her more, I think. And but it's the tolerance for the not knowing that, I got a piece of something in the work that we did, but do I really know the whole story about her? I can tolerate with some people more than with others the not knowing, and it's a very tricky business, I think, and I guess I'm very skeptical about love that's unconditional. I don't know that I have ever loved unconditionally. And I'm curious, have you?
I have.
You have? Okay, I'm very interested. I need to be helped with this. Eric, do you want to answer?
No, I was just giving space. I like that Marvin popped in.
Okay. I want to hear from Marvin too, but have you?
I mean, I think it's a fleeting moment.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
It's not. It's that nobody owns that, right? It's.
It makes me feel better.
It's almost like you see it as an echo after the fact when you're back in the conditional.
Okay.
And some traditions, spiritual traditions, that would say that unconditional is actually our nature. And I guess my question was, what is your advice to us to lead us into the embodiment that tolerates the back and forth between yes, yes, I've got you, I'm holding you, and some our own dissociation or whatever in the face of the client's or lack of tolerance.
Mhm. Oh, Eric, I wish I had the capacity to give advice about this. I long to have the capacity to know in that way. I really don't, but I feel like it's I feel very I feel so fortunate because every time I sit with somebody in a group like this, and very often with Lynn, I feel that I have an opportunity to explore these things a little bit more, to get maybe to know myself a little more, and to make myself known in a more trustworthy way to somebody. But geez, I am so far from, having that locked in. But thank you for your kindness, Eric. You're such a, it touched me. Thank you. And I want to hear from Marvin.
Nothing to add. Mary has her hand lifted.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Marvin.
No, nothing to add.
That you just love unconditionally, you just do. Well, I wish I could say that, Marvin.
I have to admit that I don't really understand what unconditional love is, what that actually means. I just want to put that in there, that so many things I sort of take for granted in my life, and then I realize, well, I don't know what that means. Love is a commitment, love is a feeling, love is so many different things. And what does it mean for it to be not conditional? I mean, all feelings or commitments are conditional, but there is something beyond that. I don't know. I just wanted to say that I'm in that place, but I want to hear Mary.
Yes.
Oh, there are just a couple things. When you were talking about Judy, just, I was imagining her, and there was something about this little girl she had to kind of muster some power before she could move into some different dynamic, in her family. And just there is the fact that people have children, but not all people are able to not compete with their children, and not all people are as tolerant of the different stages, and I mean, we all know that up here, but to embody that is quite a different thing. And today, when you talk about is there unconditional love, I think of my half sister who's more than 20 years younger, and it's been kind of a love and a pain and a pleasure that we're distanced enough that she can come and go in the times that she likes me or hates me. So to unconditionally love somebody, you also have to be able to tolerate them hating you.
I think that's very interesting, actually. I think the person I come closest to, Mary, is my granddaughter. And there was something about, I was there at her birth, and I have felt a way that, I really think that if she murdered someone, I would not stop loving her. It's just my heart is so full of her, and I don't know how to explain it, but it's like there's just almost nothing that this person could do that would make me not love her. And I guess that's as close as I've ever gotten. So You and your sister, me and my granddaughter, Mary.
Thank you.
I think if we want to do breakout rooms, this would be the moment. Are we ready for that? Do you want to continue all together, or should we? Maybe it would be good with such a complex topic to have smaller groups and sort of see where each of us is, and we could come back in 15 minutes. Does that sound good? Does that sound right, Doris?
Oh, it sounds great. I'm very curious to hear what will happen in these groups. I wish I
Yes, yes. A different thing happens, a different knowing, a different trust. It's very interesting. It would be very interesting to study that who we are in the breakout rooms is different than who we are
Yes.
here together, and our trust and our knowing is different. Okay, so we'll see you back here at 9:30. Is that right, Christine? Or a couple of minutes after 9:30?
Yeah, a couple minutes after.
Yeah, you're going to give us 15 minutes. And Doris, are you going to be in a breakout room or?
Sure, I'd love to.
Okay. So we'll see you all back at 9:30-ish. So welcome back. We want to hear what your experience was in the breakout room.
I think the breakout room represents a little bit more freedom than the larger group, because I think we feel, I mean, I should say for myself, not me, we choose between being personal to conceptual to, it gives a bit, I don't know, this experience, I felt like that. And in general, I think it gives more freedom to stay or connect or not connect, more at a personal level than the larger group does. And Lynn, also, I think that you're running this group and giving all this love is unconditional. That's how I feel. Because you're talking about unconditional love. I think participating in this is unconditional love. Yeah.
Thank you, Sashi.
Think she's dissembling.
In my group, we talked a bit about the body, trusting the body. And as usual, I have no idea what the body is in this context. And I was thinking about trusting your gut. And I said, I trusted my gut. But then an abdominal ultrasound said, you've got to switch to the Mediterranean diet. So you can't trust your gut saying, it's fine, have some more ice cream. But then, obviously I'm being too literal minded, but nobody can ever tell me an alternative to that. What do you mean by this body that you trust? So I could try to do that too, but it doesn't seem that there are readily available words for what people mean.
May I ask something? Would that be okay to Liz?
To me, sure.
When you're speaking, when the words are coming, like when you say sure, I don't know who you are, how you're connected, to this. Like, what do you call, or how do you experience where the words are coming from?
Sort of, I don't know, a waterfall. They fall down from some unknown place and they land somewhere and splash.
To me, that's the body, but there maybe not for other people, like where it's coming from, but it's a whole nother conversation. I was just curious how you experienced it. Waterfall sounds like a good metaphor. They're coming from somewhere, and the right ones sort of have to come, but sometimes they don't. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
But what is the way in which a body helps you trust? Is it that you feel relaxed in someone's presence as opposed to tense?
For
Or something
me,
else?
no, for me, it's trusting, like I was telling earlier, when I couldn't trust my thoughts because I know the medication and the lack of sleep. What I call the body, you see, words get tricky, is there's this thing that when I'm saying what I'm saying, I know what I'm, like it's somehow working. There's this working that happens, right? And so there's something that I'm trusting, and it's trusting that process. And there's a whole nother conversation if you really dig into it. But to me, that's sort of my body being as it is in the moment, I'm trusting. But yeah.
Maybe we could ask Doris to come back and to just talk with us about embodiment.
Oh,
And,
I'm just thinking that Liz has challenged me in a very way.
you have to come back to meet Liz's challenge, Doris.
Yeah, because I really, when Liz said that, what do we mean by the body? I realized I don't know. And that's when it just adds to this enormous pile, Liz, of things that I don't really know, that are part of my everyday conversation and my thinking. And when you ask me, I'm stunned to realize that I don't know. But thank you.
And I work with clients who I call patients, and except here, but they, to generalize, I know Nord's hand is up. I think they think I know. And that's really a whole conundrum. I don't want to say, you think I know and I have a degree and you're giving me some money. I don't talk about what you reveal and what's unsayable. Do you say, I don't know. I'm working it out with you maybe, but that whole thing of authority, but that's a whole other meeting. So
Yeah. But it's interesting. I wouldn't say to a number of people who need to trust that I know. And I think that I have to honor that need. But that still doesn't mean that I do know. It means that I know that somebody needs me to just act as if I know.
And it means that the not knowing is a secret. So
Yeah,
then
that's
that's a whole other bag of
a whole other thing. Thank you, Liz.
So
Thank you.
we're sort of having these big topics today, and maybe the topic of not knowing, and Doris, your book is another book that I quote about uncertainty, and how when things are rough, we can't stand uncertainty, and so we clamp down on things that we think we need to know. But I don't want to speak when Norita is waiting here.
Now, I just wanted to say that the body doesn't speak words. The body speaks the power of life. I don't have any other way to say that. About life. It's not about words. Words is the word of the mind. But like in craniosacral, which is what I practice, it's when you listen to the body, you listen to the power of life. That's the power of the body, in my opinion. And it's deeper than words. It's not deeper, but it's like, I see that as a huge ocean of knowingness. Thank you.
I love that. A deep ocean of knowingness. Maybe we could just take that in a second and feel with Norit that experience of our bodies as a deep ocean of knowingness and our cognitive thinking might not be able to can't of course grasp that deep ocean of knowingness, but it's a wonderful metaphor for the body.
Susan D, you had your hand up, right?
Susan Dizeroth had her hand up, yes.
Yeah. Susan?
No more.
Oh, no more.
No more. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm curious about what you were going to say.
Oh, what I was going to say was a little bit of what Norit, is it Norit, said, not that those are my words, but that experience she pointed to. I felt it was like a pointing to. That's what I wanted to put out there as not an answer, but as a response to the not knowing. So there's a way of, I hate to use the word knowing, but just that's it. This has been so wonderful. I just want to thank everybody, and thank you, Doris. It's like more than I can say, but yeah.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you so much, and thank you, everyone. I was just thinking about if I can say a second about body. Thank you, Nurit, because it was very powerful. But I was just thinking about body is, for me, how I feel my humanness in a world in which I cannot exist alone, because all that well, of course I love the non-human world very much, and I'm blessed to be in a very beautiful part of it, but that the most meaningful, powerful ways that I am have to do with being with others who are meeting me as embodied. And I guess that's what body means to me. It's connection
Yeah. Thank you. I think we're going to have to stop here, and we have a poem, right, from Dorothy. Eric, I don't want to stop with your hand up. Can you say something very quickly, since we're a little over time?
Super quickly. I feel like what Nurit was pointing to is intersubjectivity and presencing with that. That's trying to put language to something that isn't really languageable.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Wonderful last words.
Yes.
Okay. Dorothy.
This is a poem, Oh Me, Oh Life, by Walt Whitman.
Did Doris choose the poem?
No, Dorothy did.
Dorothy did. Okay, good.
In conjunction. Oh me, oh life, of the questions of these recurring, of the endless trains of the faithless, of cities filled with the foolish, of myself forever reproaching myself, for who more foolish than I, and who more faithless, of eyes that vainly crave the light of the objects mean, of the struggle ever renewed, of the poor results of all, of the plodding and sordid crowds I see around me, of the empty and useless years of the rest, with the rest me intertwined. The question, oh me, so sad, recurring, what good amid these, oh me, oh life? Answer, that you are here, that life exists, and identity, that the powerful play goes on, and you will contribute a verse.
Wow.
Thank you so much, Dorothy.
Yes. Yeah.
Lynn, this was a great pleasure for me to be part of your group.
For us too. Give us another date and we'll talk about uncertainty and we'll talk about embodiment.
So beautiful. And I also want to just thank Banu and Zhao for a wonderful breakout meeting. Really, really lovely. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody. We do have a planning meeting at 10.